So we're here to talk about our Lego journey. But we thought we'd kind of go back through a little bit of history first. And Darren's, who's been in local government a lot longer than I have, is going to talk about the traditional model of local government.
Although, interestingly, I've been in local government about 10 years, but before that I was in the private sector in software. So it's quite a nice segue into this, really, because when I moved into the public sector as a local government, having sort of worked in London in software and moved into Colchester when I had a first child was born, got a job at the local authority because it seemed like a good idea at the time. And IT was just stuck in the dark ages, and particularly software suppliers. There are, you probably know, we can all name them, there are about 5 or 6 big software suppliers in local government and to an extent across the private sector, certainly in housing. And if I'm honest, I have never come across any that really deliver a proper service, that never deliver a decent product. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but so
no supplies in the room, no?
No, exactly.
Good.
Maybe we just don't admit it because we're all in bed with one supplier or another at any given time. But they have various similar traits. They develop stuff really slowly, and particularly unless you're prepared to pay for something bespoke, you have to wait until everyone else wants it. And depending on where you are on the food chain, that can be a long time. From Adam's point of view, he'll go into it probably more than I, but certainly local government websites, there are about 5 or 6 suppliers, and they give you their flavour of local government, and they try to sell you all these exciting things that, I've even had people say to me, what we do is we do some posters for you, and we get people to sign up like that, and I'm like, but what's the product like? And from our point of view particularly, which I'll talk about a bit later, they are very reluctant to move into cloud computing. I know that some of them are beginning to do it. We talking to some guys here before about Capita. We know Capita are going into cloud. But there's a reluctance to do it, and there's a sort of lockdown. The way that they do it is locked down, and it ties you in and it makes you pay through the nose. Web services, for example. So, from my point of view, or from our point of view really, it gives this impression that we are 5 to 10 years behind because we've got these legacy systems. But actually, are we? What's happening now, we see more and more, is the traditional model disappears. And, it's Adam's phrase, not mine, the enterprise age, the age of the enterprise application.
I like the phrase.
It's good. Bear in mind when you watch this, Adam used to be a professional actor. And I'm just a CRM project manager, okay? So
tell him that. Oh, blimey, I'm not going to do Shakespeare.
No, because it's always a comparison, I can't, So there are now these amazing platform products. Don't ask for that, I should have said that. That's for later. There are these platform products that we all know and love, and we arguably, anyone can now access the same sort of technology that the big boys can access, and they can build systems.
So the old systems was built for you. Your Lego house was built for you. The new system is you got someone to help you now build that system.
Yeah. So a lot of local authorities are adopting this system, which is actually that they're employing some pretty expensive consultancy companies to help them build, or to build for them in effect. And what we've seen is that some of these companies have said, hold on, we've built this product for X borough council, we could sell it to every borough council. So there's this whole concept of IP, that the company are building IP, and sometimes in conjunction, we know local authorities that are trying to sell products, we've all got to get more commercial, so we've built this product, we'll go into partnership with our developer and we'll sell you a product. So, the building blocks are there, but actually you still need this help to build it because it isn't that easy. These consultants are making themselves more and more important. They are very expensive. There were some frightening figures came out of Enfield's development, actually. I was at a seminar and it was in the millions in terms of what they were doing with, on a...
We're not saying consultants are bad, because I know there's some consultants in the room. Consultants are good.
Yeah. In fact,
don't upset people.
No, not at all. It's just the model really, because it's that, in effect, I think what they're doing is they're building legacy systems. You know, they're building a system that isn't bespoke, that actually can't, you take it on. And what's the difference really between them and the Capitas and the Civicas of the past? So again, we're not even looking at that really, we are looking at our crazy idea, which is to actually do it ourselves. And what we believe that 365 gives us is the ability to do that. So I do have a software background, I'm not a developer, I was never technical. I know enough, I understand databases and stuff. I can build with Dynamics. Adam's reasonably technical. You know, he knows a bit about the web. We've got a couple of developers, but a lot of the stuff we're doing, and I think we heard it mentioned before, it's that the concept of out of the box. You know, everyone's a bit worried about 365. There was a bit of a theme here. How does it perform? And we know that Microsoft are going to, you know, when they upgrade it, we're going to get the upgrade. We're not going to be able to stop them doing it. So one of our basic principles is stick to out of the box as much as possible. Why are we doing it? I think I've really talked about a lot of the reasons, the sort of negative reasons that we're doing it. And this is probably the worst one. This is, those of you that are in local government understand how funding works. I certainly didn't until I naively assumed that all my council tax that I paid went to the local authority, and if they miss my bins, God help them. But actually, we get, I think, about 3% of council tax. So we're in Essex. Essex County get a big chunk of it, and actually the police and the fire get the majority of it. So poor old Colchester Borough Council gets a tiny little bit of it. And how we could survive and how all authorities survived up until the last few years was that government gave them loads of money to do it. And this is an idea, this is a really stark figure. I asked our finance guy for
where we are now.
For some information about government grants. So this is how this is obviously in thousands. Once upon a time we got about £6 million from the government.
To be clear, this is grants specifically to do IT work?
No.
This is grants.
This is grant.
Yeah.
We're only little.
Right. We're a tiny percentage of this.
We're a big borough, but small in the scheme of things. And when I got the slide, obviously I said to him, hold on a minute, Sean, at the end, it goes into negative. He said, yeah, apparently we owe them money at the end of it. So we know, I mean, it's not a stark as well, it gets replaced with the money we currently pay in business rates. So as long as we have a lot of business, we do okay. But what it allows us to do is, or what it means, that whole grant situation means that the buzzword across all local authorities now is commerciality. It's about being commercial. It's about what services do we produce that either we can produce in a more efficient way and cheaper, or what can we sell and what are we good at? And without a product like Dynamics, you are back to, well, how do we administrate that? How do we build those systems? How do we charge people? How do we get it all on the web? And in the commercial world, that's exactly what we're going to need to do. So we think that Dynamics now means that we've got control of our systems. We're not worried about suppliers. We're not constantly phoning them up and saying, you know, can you please do this bit that you promised us you were going to do? We've got this agility. You know, every day, all of a sudden the other day someone came in, we've got to look at trade waste. Trade waste is really important. It could be the money earner. We're desperately looking for ways to earn money. And Dynamics gives us the agility, literally within, you know, a short space of time to create a new system for a new business. We also, there's a couple of other things. Local talent, we've got a couple of guys that we've brought in that are developers. We've got a university in Colchester. Straight out of university, we work closely with the university to get people in, and of course recruitment consultants. And we also think that we can, you know, why should we go into partnership with a consultant to sell a system when actually we wouldn't look to sell a system, because what I really forgot to mention with the consultants is that actually all local authorities do the same thing. Not one of them does it the same way, and that's why their model doesn't quite work. What we'd like to do is to do it for ourselves, prove we can do it, and then maybe help some people to do it themselves.
So it's putting the Lego in our hands.
Yeah.
See the link? It's tenuous.
So we had a guy from America who came over to do a bit of training with us. We've hooked it. We are using a consultant to an extent. Very light touch company called Power Objects. We really like them. I'm going to give them a plug now because I always do.
Yeah.
And the chap that came from America to train us, he called us citizen developers. Apparently that's the new phrase. This is people who can't really code, but it's true. Don't laugh. You'll hear it soon. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
We're going to coin it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting that back in the old days, it used to be you have to get like some big DevOps guy in, but now we have the tools. We just need the cojones to do it. This is where I take over. So it's interesting, when I joined local government about 3.5 years ago, there was a massive disparity between the stuff that goes on the website and all this talk of customer, customer, customer. Yet everything was being built from the back office forward, and the customer was always getting a substandard product. It was always poor. How many people use their council website? Awesome. Yeah, exactly. Why? Because it's rubbish. You pick your phone up. It's a habit. So we wanted to change that. So when I came in, this is one of the big things. And the retail sector's really started to embrace this experience age. It's about experiencing something when you go online. It's not just about self-serve, you know. Channel shift, I hear channel shift, but how do you truly channel shift? So, I mean, I've got some things here. It's holistic, it's omni-channel, it's irrelevant. It's all about omni-channel, basically. If we don't, as a local government, as public sector organisations, truly embrace channel shift or this omni-channel approach, then we're going to get left behind. 61% of people struggle to switch channels. What that means is, if I ring up on the phone and I say I reported Miss Bin, and then I go online, and there's no connection between those two things, that's a breakup of the whole journey. We need to make that complete the circle. So the chatbot we saw earlier, I'm going to come to chatbot in a minute, but it's about, yes, we've got a chatbot, which is fantastic, but how does that complete the circle? How do we switch to chatbot, and then switch to phone, and then switch to online, and then switch to email, and make it one seamless experience for the customer, so that they don't even realize that they're switching channels with us? It makes no difference. Amazon is a case in point of that. And if we don't do this, we lose 10% in lost revenue, and you've just seen our chart of what we're losing from the government. So if we lose 10% of what we already haven't got, we got a lot of nothing, you know. So we've really got to start changing how we do things. So some of the key features that we think will make what we're doing stand out is that we're using, you know, a dynamically linked XRM to our CRM portals. So we're going to take advantage of what Microsoft have given us. So we've fully jumped into the Microsoft bandwagon of 365, and that comes with that is what used to be known as ADX Studios. You may have heard of it. It's now CRM portals. It's quite locked down. It's quite restrictive, but actually you can do a lot with that. So we're going to use that to do some real front to back, not back to front type of work. We're going to personalize it to the individual. I don't know how many people are in web or understand anything about the kind of council websites, but you'll have heard the term top tasks in the past. Everyone's heard top tasks, which works and it's fine and it's great, okay? But my top tasks are very different to your top tasks. Very different to your top tasks, yeah? So, but we always just use simple Google metrics to say, okay, this is the top tasks for everybody. It's irrelevant. Let's personalize it. Let's make it intuitive. Let's make it mobile, responsive, and let's make it adaptable. We need to be proactive. Everyone will have noticed the spelling mistake. It's the third time I've done that. I should be forgetting. So it's all about putting the customer first. We build front to back, not back to front. This is just a kind of a wireframe mock-up of what we're trying to do. It's uncluttered. If we're not going to add it if it doesn't add value. We're going to do a little bit of a demo of this if we've still got time, just to kind of show you how it works. It's conversational, services of verbs, and it's clear navigation. And the whole ethos behind it is actually we're going to do it piecemeal. Everyone does council websites by, let's do a big switch off and a big switch on. We've decided we're not going to do that. We're going to go service by service and just do it bit by bit. Because how we do that then is we create behavior change. We're completely changing the fundamental way of delivering websites from top tasks to actually being service. You report it. You got a knowledge hub. You got these different ways of doing it. If we introduce it bit by bit, by the time the whole website switches over, our residents will just be used to it. It's about onboarding. And this case of onboarding is something that I don't think gets paid enough attention to in local government. Private sector love onboarding. It's all they ever talk about. If you ever go on Medium and look at UI, it's all about onboarding. What is onboarding? It's getting people invested in your product. Okay. There's a big council. Darren's mentioned them already. I'll say them again. Enfield. I like a lot of work that they're doing. They've done a lot of work on the back end of Dynamics, and they're really leading the way. If you've been to any Microsoft conference, you'll have heard Enfield talking. And Rocco is a great guy. However, they're looking at chatbots, and they're probably going to be the first to market with chatbot in the local government space. But they're looking at it mid-complexity, mid-contact. Yeah. So the amount of contact is mid-range, but it's mid-complexity. And the specific thing they're looking at is planning permission. Now, I have a disagreement with this, a fundamental disagreement, which is where's the onboarding in that? Now, planning permission is such an expensive piece of work. Okay. Now, it is a very simple process, fairly, admittedly, yeah. Yes, if you tick all these boxes, you're entitled to planning permission. However, planning permission is grey areas, okay? Regardless of what you say, there is grey areas. If you go to a chatbot, and that chatbot tells you the wrong thing, are you ever going to use a chatbot again? No, you're not. However, if we can, and also, who would you, hands up in this room, who would use a chatbot to check their planning permission? There you go. Straight off the bat. So they're spending all that money on something that no one's going to use because they haven't onboarded. However, if we go with low complexity but high volume transactions, such as I want to report a missed bin, and you go on Twitch and you say, you've missed my bin, Colchester Borough Council, and we go back with a chatbot that just says, no problems, what's your postcode? And it gives you a postcode. Yeah, well, we know that. We go to our little system that comes back and says, we did miss your bin. We're sorry, but we're on our way to come and get it now. And the chatbot's done that. You haven't spoke to an individual. You don't even know you've spoken to a chatbot. We've onboarded you into using that chatbot without you even realizing. We don't think about doing that enough. There's a psychologist out in America who's wrote a book, and if any of you are interested in this type of thing, I thoroughly recommend you read it. It's called the Hook Model. Hooked, it's called actually, by a guy called Nia Eyal. This is basically, I'm going to give you it so you don't have to buy the book. That's where I work. But what he did is he looked at every single tech company who came out in the last 15 years that's been successful and looked at how they did it. Yeah? And what he realized is that they all follow this model. And so I actually went out and I spoke to this guy. I didn't go out, I messaged him on Twitter, and then he got back to me and we had an email conversation talking about how local government can do this and how government in general should think about this, because we don't. It's just not something that comes in our heads. And it's, what are we trying to hook them to do, yeah? And we're not trying to hook them to report a missed bin. We're trying to hook them to use the web because it's cheaper. It's like, what, 4 pence as opposed to £8 to speak face-to-face, £4 to speak on the phone, whatever. So we want to hook them into using the web to stop using those channels, yeah? And then that way we can stop them from even contacting us altogether because we can serve them information from CRM when we need it. So the model, really quickly, is that you have a trigger, it's internal or it's external. Internal trigger is it's something that's happened to you, you want to get off your chest, and external trigger is it's something that's come from outside of you, okay? Whatever it is, you have a need to go onto a website. So Facebook is, you want to check the feed, yeah? You want to post an update, yeah? You then do the action. You go to the website, you perform that action. That bit's fine, okay? You go in there, you fill in a form, you put your status update, you upload a picture to Instagram, whatever it is, okay? Once you've done that, in council world, we stop. That's it, you're done, okay? That person's never going to get anything else. The next thing you need to do, though, is you need to give that person a reward, something back, but it needs to be variable. I mean, how many people buy the same pizza every single time they go to the pizza shop? Yeah, it's not something you do. You mix it up a little bit, okay? So the variable reward is about giving that person something, and it can be anything. It can be tiny. It can be like just a tick, a little tick that just animates on the screen, or a little car that drives off, or it could be that you get a special voucher or a gift code, or in local government world, we have events that go on in our boroughs. You know, we have news that we want to give to people. You know, we give them that. Instead, what we always do in local government, and I don't know if any other sector is, we plastered on our websites on these big banners that no one ever clicks. I've looked at the stats. No one ever clicks them. Okay? But we say all this crap. But the person just wants to report a missed bin. That's all they want to do. Okay? So let's let them report a missed bin. Then let's tell them the crap. Because then they're interested. Then they want to listen. Okay? Variable reward. And then we get them to invest. And when the investment bit is where you give them the portal, you give them the bit to say, you know what are your top tasks? Let's build your top tasks, but let's make it simple for you to do that as well, so that we start building that for you. So when you go back, we know what you want to do. It's already there. And also, you've got a list of everything every transaction you've made with us, whether you've been on the phone, whether you've been on the chatbot, whether you've been in email, it's all in there. So you're investing in the product. They're not going to want to ring up anymore because they've got it here and it's at the click of a button on a mobile, because we built it mobile first. We've made it sound beautiful. It's not. There are things that are fundamentally driving us crazy as we go through this process. Darren will talk about the first one. It's a big bugbear for himself.
Yeah, I think it's this is all about money, and I've probably bent a couple of people's ears tonight. So Microsoft, when we run Microsoft Dynamics 2011 at the moment. We run it in a flavour provided to us by a company called Northgate. We're really brilliant. Everyone knows Northgate.
All Northgate stuff.
So strangely, we decided we didn't want to use it anymore. But we really liked Dynamics as much as they let us tinker with it, because you couldn't really tinker with it a lot. And we were keen on it, and we were in conversation with Microsoft, and they got really excited because in the local government thing they're really pushing 365, and they would tell me again and again that this is the future of Microsoft and this is where we're going, and the guy that runs Microsoft now apparently was the 365 lead at one point, so he's really up for it. And we were really excited because we were looking for a product that really did end-to-end stuff, and that's what Dynamics does for us. You know, it does everything from the front end all the way through the whole process to the man on the street who cleans up the graffiti or whatever. And then we started looking at the licensing, and it is an absolute minefield. And to be honest with you, we can't, to work to the letter of what Microsoft say, we can't really afford it in a way. We think, because what Microsoft say isn't really clear, that there's a thing called a team member license when you go online, which so most of the licenses, so the way it works in simple terms is you get a high level Plan 1 license which allows you to do anything and everything, which is about 80 quid a month, local authority rate. We get a cheaper rate, slightly cheaper rate. About 80 quid a month a user. Then they've split the product into what they call apps, applications. So for example, the customer services app is an application, the sales app is an application. They're about 65 quid. So they're for people who are going to use our contact centre, for example, will use Dynamics constantly. You know, they'll be in it all the time, they'll be doing stuff. We expect them to have an app license. We want to use it, for example, for compliments and complaints. Being a local council, we get a lot of complaints. But the way that they're dealt with is spread around the council. So specific officers will get 3 times a year, deal with this complaint. So for someone who wants to go in 3 times a year and use the system to do a couple of bits, we assume you can use a team member license. When you talk to Microsoft, it's a slightly different story. The literature that they provide, there's a phrase they put in it called light use, and they don't really explain what that is. Because the product's so new, which I think is probably our second point and moves into that, our expert Microsoft licensing partner, they can't help us either. I ask them, what license do I need for this scenario? And they tell me, or they ask me, what license do you want to buy for that person in that scenario? Okay. So it is expensive. It's very young. I've used this phrase a couple of times tonight, I'm sorry to bore you all, but I get on Google and ask questions, how do you do this in Dynamics? And all I see is the same question, because it's that new. 365, I know a lot of you are on 16 and you've seen that. 365 is a step away again. It is completely online. So there's obviously a lot of stuff in terms of integration that you can't do with it. There's a lot of stuff in terms of the portal that you can't do with it. We've moved towards it because we
see the future.
Yeah, we see it's a gamble, you know, and we're not under massive pressure. We're not live with it yet. We've got to get some stuff live, and we're doing it in a very simple way. We're looking at the easy services first. But don't get me wrong, we are looking at things like housing and revenues and benefits in our plan in the future. But certainly at the moment we're just doing the easy stuff. I'll let you talk for a bit now.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Well, there's obviously, as local government, Darren and I sit within customer services. We don't sit within IT, the IT department. So, as you can imagine, with us leading on a project such as this, there's a lot of politics. And then recruitment as well. I've got 2 great guys at the moment, but I say to them every day, if you leave me, you know, all of this is it's like a souffle in the oven kind of rising. There you go. That's why I'm here with Gravitas going, hey guys, how are you? Because when they go, I'll be on the phone going, give me someone. Yeah, so it's a real, you know,
But it is
it's a risk, but it's you know, we can mitigate that.
interesting stuff. Recruitment. I think what Adam is really saying is that we can't pay what the private sector pays.
I don't want to go
So,
down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it is a lot of it comes down to money. So
It does,
it's-
yeah. No, it is. It's about salaries.
It's
We're
worth
in
mentioning.
Colchester, you know. It's we don't pay the big bucks.
Saying that
It's
for
actually
their
known as a town that doesn't pay the big bucks. As soon as I heard that, I was, hey, I'm moving. So yeah, we don't pay the big bucks. So how do we retain our staff? And at the moment, we're relying on them having kids. I'm not lying. I'm genuinely true. Yeah. So
Only
yeah.
the male ones though.
So, Martin Luther King, it's a very famous quote. I mean, I'm sure you've all heard it, which is if you can't fly, you run. You can't run and walk. You can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. I thought this is a great quote, but however, it's back to front. It should be, if you can crawl, then walk. If you can walk, then run. If you can run, then fly. Whatever you do, keep moving forward. Any questions?
We've got a new waste service. Colchester's a very strange place. For many years it's been run by a sort of coalition of Lib Dems and Labour, and they never agree on anything. So we're implementing wheelie bins at the moment. We've got, you know, sorry, this is all local government boring stuff, but we're implementing wheelie bins, but not everywhere. So the local ward members are deciding where the wheelie bins go. And we are moving from weekly collections to fortnightly collections. We're only going to let people put out 3 sacks
Every 2 weeks?
every 2 weeks, but we're going to provide some exemptions for that. So there's some stuff we've got to do. We've got to get live to prepare for that service, to ask the public about whether they're home suitable for a wheelie bin and whether they put out 1 or 3 sacks a week. So.
Yeah.
The service goes live in June,
June
so we
22nd.
need to be ready end of April with some of these processes.
Yeah.
So it's exciting times.
Yeah.
But
It's important to know as well that, you know, traditional council websites, so we're going all verb-based, it's all about what you can report transactional first. However, you know, you've still got your knowledge hub, you've still got all that gumph that everyone wants to have. So we're going to put that into our interactive service hub in Dynamics, if you've heard of that, which is our knowledge base, where people can go and reference it to, and kind of do a myriad of ways to bring it all together. I mean, if anyone's interested, I can do a very quick demo of kind of how it's going to look a little bit, but only if you're interested, you don't have to.
I'll be interested.
Okay. Damn it.
How did you find the business buy-in for your grand idea?
Yeah, so
Because it is quite a change for local government or public
Yeah.
sector in general to think big
Yeah,
rather
yeah,
than think
yeah, yeah, yeah.
achievable.
it's all about winning hearts and minds at the top and let
Yeah.
it filter down. So it's about getting the chief exec and the kind of directors underneath that to kind of buy into it. If you get them and you get their hearts and their minds and you show them the art of the possible, then they will trickle down to the people. I think if you try and go up through, then you're never going to get there.
Can I extend that question emphasis slightly? So, from what I can gather, you've done a lot of, rather than getting in external consultants, you've developed your existing staff, you've upskilled them.
Upskill them.
What did you do to persuade the senior management that was the right way to go? And in fact, why did you even think that that was the right way to do it? Rather than getting in external consultants?
Because I'm ambitious.
Mm.
Yeah.
But then what did
No.
you do to persuade the senior management
Yeah.
that that was the right
So
It's very-
I'm going to answer this because
Oh,
Adam came in. So when Adam came into the council, we use a product called GOS to provide our website. GOS are a standard local government supplier. They supply the GOS website, and you know, if you look at 30 or so local government sites, they'll all look very similar, and that's why. Adam came in and worked in the web team, and then there was an opportunity came up to manage the web team, which he moved into that post and started to introduce WordPress. And interesting enough, WordPress At the time, again, the ICT politics of the small p, they were dead against WordPress. So again, it was hearts and minds. So what Adam did, was to build some smaller, less risky websites with WordPress. We had some commercial ventures. We've got like a helpline system which provides, like in-house alarms for elderly and frail people. What else did you do?
Safer cultures,
Safer
communities,
culture. Yeah,
partnerships,
community stuff.
you know.
So, and they were really successful to the extent actually that ICT said, "Oh, can you build us a portal?"
Yeah,
so
they
that
did,
we can.
yeah. And then our leisure centre wanted one,
And I think, yeah, we've done. In fact, now the Leisure Centre website is a fully functional
we're pretty
WordPress.
moved, museum. Yeah, there's a lot of different services. So I went out and built all these websites that kind of showed a different way of doing things for local government, which got a lot of buy-in. And then that evidenced that we could build something. And then at the same time as all this was going on, and I was saying we need to think about doing the website in-house, just the website to begin with. There was a piece of work going on which Darren was involved in with Basildon. We were going to partnership. Don't know how much of this is secret or not, but I think it was in the newspapers, so we're okay. We were going to go into partnership with Basildon.
Only in Essex, so I don't want.
Because they had CRM, they were Microsoft Dynamics, but they had developers. They built a lot of processes themselves, and so we started a lot of work with them. And our head of service got really bought into this as well in this partnership agreement. Due to the politics of the small p and the ICT strategy, that kind of diverged and it kind of was put to one side. And so when that was decided to be put to one side, we'd already kind of invested in this route of Dynamics because we'd won the hearts, the minds of our bosses above us. So they liked the idea of the vision that we were selling them, which is the kind of the vision we just sold you guys, to be honest. They liked that vision. So they said to us, right, can you do this? And Darren and I
Stupidly, we said.
we'd had a drink that morning and said, yes, we can do this. And at that time when we said yes, we had no developers at all, and literally just Darren and I, and without a team.
But
and that was in November.
the product does allow you to do that. I genuinely believe that the product, certainly 365, it gives you the ability to, as long as you've got a sort of understanding of how databases and stuff hangs together about relationships, you
It's
can build
not that
stuff in it.
complicated.
And the bits that you can't do, you can buy in, or you can buy in the expertise.
The bit we're doing on the front end of the website is a bit more complicated. You do need people who know what they're doing. But the bit at the back end,
Yeah,
I'd argue they didn't.
it's reasonably simple, and it will only get better. You know, that's the thing. If I compare it to 2011, and some people I know go back to CRM4, I think you said, it's improving all the time. And actually, some of in 365, they've already moved some of the sort of building type work to their new what looks like their new interface. So you can see where they're going. It's much more drag and drop. It's much more, unlike the old system, you know, if you go wrong up there, you don't have to scrap the whole thing and start again. You could slip something in. So they've Microsoft are looking to let you do, you know, let it be in your hands. They want to push it out to small businesses.
And with tools
as well.
like Logic Apps, if you ever get hold of Logic Apps and the Azure platform in general, it's incredible. The tools that they're giving you that you could just pick up and just it's insane what they're giving you. Which is why we're saying this is a citizen developer thing. We met a guy who works for Microsoft, the Mark guy. And he said he got his job at Microsoft. He can't code a word. He can't do anything. He just knows how to use a mouse. And he said that's how he got his job at Microsoft, because he knew how to use a mouse. Because they've given him the tools to do it.
You talked about omnichannel in your contact centre. So what system do you use, and does it integrate with 365?
We use Mitel at the moment as a contact system, but they use Dynamics in the contact center, so it will all integrate together.
The plan is to integrate it. At the moment, it doesn't. We looked at doing it, but the Mitel platform as wasn't ideal. It's improved a bit, and we will look at doing it again. But for a local government, part of that, if you're talking about sort of screen popping and stuff, it's what you'll find typical local government. You know, we've got 180,000 residents. We probably talk to about 10,000 of those on a regular basis. You know, most of us in the room, I guess, are all in employment, and we pay our council tax and we get our bins collected, and that's about it. So what we find is our typical high need clients are people who are, you know, on benefits. They might be in a lot of trouble. So it's a slightly different market, and we wouldn't necessarily even have the phone numbers, you know. So if it's a screen pop, you know, we recognise the number, it pops. We're moving that way. We're certainly doing a lot with. We're trying to capture a lot more email addresses, mobile
we have a vision
numbers.
for single customer
We've got we want to do a lot with SMS. We're already really using SMS really successfully with for collections. So those of you, housing associations, you may already do it, but we, council tax collection and SMS and rent arrears, we're having massive success with SMS actually.
And in terms of the users, the front end users, your agents, what do they think about the speed of the system?
So we're not live yet with 365.
Yeah, in testing, I'm sure that they've been involved in testing.
Well,
They have, but we're still on a sandbox environment. So to be honest with you, it's the sandboxes are not ideally propositioned. So we don't know what the speed's going to be like. In fact, I was talking to the previous speaker about the speed, and he was really impressed with the live speed of 365, which is quite reassuring because we don't know. We assume it's going to be okay, and I know that probably sounds a bit weak, but you know. Microsoft has sold it to me and said it will be fine. So.
I'm sure it will be fine as well if you look at their Azure and where the data centers are around the world and what resources they put into it. Like, I don't think there'll be any problems, but certainly the sandbox is throttled.
And I go back to my first statement. We use Northgate currently. So.
So what's your plan to phase out your legacy systems as part of this?
So we are initially we're expecting to run this alongside everything. In the short term, so the bit that I haven't really talked about is all of our regulatory stuff for various reasons is moving to a Salesforce-based product. So that what we're doing is probably about 20%.
We appreciate the ridiculousness of that.
It's crazy.
Is that we're the only organisation in the world who runs Salesforce with Dynamics at the same time? We appreciate that. It's not our decision.
What's your operation cost?
In terms of
Maintaining the 365 and on.
So we, outside of licensing, we're looking to go into an agreement with Power Objects. So they're a consultant that we have used. We like them a lot. They're massive worldwide. They're only just moving into Europe. They've been bought out by a company called HCL, and they provide a support package that includes sort of break fix stuff. It includes a little bit of liaison with Microsoft because they've got a good relationship there, and it also includes quite a lot of consultancy. And for that, they are looking at around 30 grand a year. Which
the licenses?
The licenses themselves, again, it depends now. We've only got. I'm only now looking, I'm trying to think numbers, about 130, 140 staff up front, which works out to about 45,000.
I was going to say it's about 45,
a year.
50,000, yeah.
So
But it depends on, there are still some discussions with Microsoft about what, so for example, we've got about 70 guys that are out in the street doing clean-up stuff and whatever they do. I was hoping I could get away with team member licenses for them all. I think that's not going to be possible. So instead of, and this is the argument I have with Microsoft, either I give you £7 a month for all of these people, or I don't give you anything, and we just use our current mobile solution, and I interface with that. So, you know, it's going to grow. We'd like to push it out across the council, but it's all down to money.
But do we know when is the next upgrade coming for 365? When is the next version coming?
Spring, it's any time before
What would that cost?
Oh, in terms of the upgrade, that's part of
It's
the.
free.
You get that as part of the licenses. So there's no capital cost. You're buying a subscription. The only capital cost that in fact, not even capital cost. If you want to do things like have additional environments, then you've got to pay for that. So out of the box, you get a live and a sandbox. We have bought a test environment so that we can move through the cycle. It's about seven grand a year,
Yeah.
so it's not a fortune. But there's nothing on top of that.
So there is a direct cost of upgrade as the new version comes out. And there's an indirect cost of, i.e., what is going to impact of your existing platform, i.e., how many customizations you have. So when the new upgrade is going to come, you have a cost which is the standard flat cost of your, fixed cost of your license. But what is the most variable and the danger point is the creepy cost, we call it, is how much is it going to cost you to actually manage that impact?
So we will, our idea, conceptually what we're saying is we are sticking to the out-of-the-box way that they want us to build, and all of our consultancy is around, I don't want to use any code, I just want to use what Microsoft prescribed me to use. So the hope is that we don't get too affected by it. We know we will, we understand that. We'll have consultants there to help us, we'll do some of it ourselves. What we don't really yet know is actually how that's going to work in terms of the upgrade. So at the moment we're not live, it doesn't affect us at all. But it would be interesting to have, it's how much time they give us before we have to upgrade.
And from my
You get no choice in that. You have to deliver all of your bespoke work in line with the upgrade. And how have you won the hearts and minds of the business in terms of delivering what Microsoft provides out of the box process compared to very complex and inefficient local authority processes?
So, massive project of re-engineering before we even started.
Yeah.
A lot of head-butting. We had one this week with local government's an interesting thing. We 3 bin sacks every 2 weeks, so you'll be able to get an exemption if you've got a massive family, possibly, or if you have, for various reasons, what's called, offensive waste? There's a technical thing which I won't go into, but unfortunately some people, have to put out a lot of that sort of waste. So we said, okay, that's fine, we'll build you a process to weed out the people that can't have it. What's a large household? Oh, we're not saying, well then I can't weed them out. Well, we can't, we don't want to put a limit on it because we might upset people. So it's that sort of thing, that's what we come up against. But where we can, we've gone back to basics and really sat down with teams and said, actually.
I think it's important to know as well is that at Colchester we're in quite a unique position when we talk to other councils, which is that a lot of digital transformation work and this idea of buying into digital and channel shift has already been done. It was done like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Colchester was one of the first councils to have loads of processes online so you can go and do self-serve. So people have seen the benefits and they've seen the savings. So for us it was just a case of let's make this even easier. So a lot of it was already done. So when I talk about hearts and minds, the council was already leaning towards there. Well, certainly we would talk to Basildon, some of their people aren't there yet, and it's really interesting. And I know some organisations, I was talking to someone who said that, I can't remember what it was, oh yeah, single person reduction or something.
Discount.
The single person discount. They wouldn't put that online because they were worried about someone who's dumped someone going on there and applying for a single person discount for them. I was like, what? They're going to go up there and put pictures of them naked. They're not going to do a single person discount. It's ridiculous. But that's the level of kind of fear, I think, that prevails across local government.
It was interesting. Basildon, when we were talking to Basildon, we asked them to demonstrate their refuse stuff to our guys. And they expected it to take about 20 minutes and they were there for 2 hours because our guys were like, oh, can it do that? Will it do that? And they were amazed because when they'd gone into what they call their depot, it was just go away, we don't need you because we know what we're doing. Why do we need you?
We're quite lucky though. I also just want to go back very briefly to your question, which is obviously my guys are doing a lot of custom work on the portals, the CRM portals, because it is very new. It's not what ADX used to do and it's very locked down, so we're kind of ripping it out a little bit. Our hope is, as it becomes a more mature product, we can actually take away our customizations and start moving more towards the out-the-box functionality.
That's also a cost.
It is a cost, but it's one we factored in with the team because it's part of our team development.
So the ROI of that cost would be back about 3 years?
Yeah, but it's fine because we factored that into the ongoing costs of my area, my team. It's just what my team's, their salaries. And that's why we salaried them in. So they're salaried, they're not brought in on contracts.
So you reduce the cost of upgrades which will impact on customization by adding resources to bring it back to the out-of-the-box standard.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
No, I'm trying to work it in my head, and it's not the beer, it's just...
Yeah. No, I get it. It's because it's not there yet, and if we want to get some of the savings that we want to do, we're not building it that crazily out of the box. We're still using liquid themes. We're just bringing in some single-page applications, say, and what we're hoping is that we can get access to the back-end code, the .NET code. That's what we don't have access to in the CRM portals. What we're hoping is that actually once we get access to that CRM portals, some of the work that we're doing using JavaScript and etc. We can bring across. And it's not massive amounts of work.
The problem is there is no magic wand.
No.
So that when you have a new upgrade of a Microsoft, you need a magic wand to tell you.
Yeah,
16 different departments. If I have 16 different kinds of modifications or customization per department. If I launch this version, where is going to be my impact?
Yeah.
So that we don't really have a ripple control or impact control. So in essence, what we do is, this is how much it's going to cost me here, flat fixed cost, and this is the variable cost. The biggest issue or concern that I have for us is that once we've launched it on a massive scale, how do I control that cost? And how do I go and sell to my finance director? I'm not quite sure how much it's going to cost, but it's going to cost a lot.
Which is why we went in-house, because I think you can manage it better if you have your team.
Sure.
And your team with it. As opposed to going outside getting an external consultant who, to re-engineer backwards almost some of the work they've done, or to help you do that. Surely those costs are going to be more expensive than having your team over there working day in, day out and know exactly what your product is.
The big question is how long are they going to let you do it on-prem and control it yourself?
Well, cloud has the same problem, and on-prem has the same problem.
But at least on-prem you're in control of those upgrades.
But we just don't know what it's going to impact.
No.
How far does the ripple, if I don't know how far wide my ripple effect goes, I don't know how much it's going to cost me.
Yeah. The world of kind of, I guess, being development in WordPress, every time WordPress comes out, it ruins everything. You've got to go over it and refix it. So I guess I'm just kind of used to it. This is the model that we're moving into.
Well,
this is the world.
The biggest abusers are SAP and Oracle. They have that, and the bigger cost is actually the upgrades, not the license cost. And Microsoft is slowly kind of moving that way.
At least it doesn't cost to upgrade. It's just cost stuff for exactly.
And how's it?
Yeah.
Housing that product.
Yeah.
I think you can also take it as an opportunity that every time you upgrade, you have to revisit what you have done before, and you can do it better.
What was the question?
Just, at the start, you were talking about the general view of councils being 5 to 10 years behind. So would you say that as you've adopted these new technologies and platforms, the attitude of the business and the understanding of how these are developed has changed? So I speak as a consultant who's worked with lots of councils over the years, rolling out these things. And the frustration from the other side is that it's very hard to get them to understand how you can develop and build these things differently. So I'm wondering how easy it's been to educate and get them to do that. Has that changed significantly as well?
We can only talk for Colchester, but I think it has changed. Like, we want to do things in different ways, and the services are open to that. Some services aren't and are more, reticent. But certainly our ICT department, ourselves, we're all about let's just change the way that we work. And I often hear this thing as well. They won't do that, like your staff. No, you can't give them that. They won't do it. I don't know if it's just because I'm from the north or whatever. I'm like, make them do it. Don't pay them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
But we've already, like Adam said, we were quite a way ahead with the digital stuff. So we use a product called Achieve Forms, for example, which is a forms package. It's quite, it's a great product. And actually, what you'd find is once we adopted it, we did some clever stuff with it, and more people saying, "Oh, can you build me one of those?" So I think it's just about, it's that proof of concept all the time. It's just trying to prove to people that you can do it. So I think it's
it's about communication as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about just keeping those lines of dialogue open as well about what the art of the possible is. And if we have an idea, we take it to them. And we use Agile quite a lot, so being in business ambassadors. And,
Yeah, I mean, that's a big sea change for us, is move away from Prince 2, which I was doing 5 years, and Agile was like, this is the way we should be doing things. So it's interesting.
I've got 2 questions. First of all was, how much of the Power Object add-ons do you get with your support?
we get them all, don't we?
Yeah, we do, but
we don't use any.
They're specific. Their support is based on user. So we haven't signed a support agreement yet. We're still in negotiation with them. It's because I've got to get it cheap. That's all. They do include their power add-ons, but it's negotiable. But certainly the support package, the gold support package or whatever they call it, will include those. And we like the SMS one. We really like. There's a map one we like, and there's a photo upload one. That
And if anyone's a Man United supporter, they have a box on the halfway line at Old Trafford. I can't take advantage, so you could.
And the other question going on your agile, how are you managing your backlogs? How are you finding that?
I'll give that over to you.
We constantly revisit our Moscows to see and then that's basically what we do. We just constantly revisit our Moscows and just reprioritize. Can't change costs, can't change time.
Are you encouraging your users and obviously the council inhabitants to submit changes?
Well, obviously we haven't gone live yet, so all the changes are currently just within our just within our area. So it's a lot easier to manage at the moment.
We are, I would say, we are including the users in all of our development anyway. So
we have
in that agile cycle, they're always looking at stuff, and we're getting comments back all the time. But we're small, so we're doing it, and we're working on a few processes at a time. So it's very much a sort of come and see how far we've got this week. You know, what do you think of that?
And just remember, like I said at the beginning, like when I was doing my bit, is that we're doing this incrementally. We're not doing a big full launch. It's just bit by bit. So we've still got to, we've still got a contract with Gus, who are our current suppliers, and we're just going to switch URLs across once we're ready to go live with it, with an area. It's going to be a bit messy for a while, but we're going to make that very obvious to our customers.
If you're using a sort of agile DSD kind of approach, to what extent are you actually involved in the business?
Yeah, a lot. A lot. So constantly in communications with the business. Every time, Darren obviously knows a lot more about this. I have a lot of more free reign to do what I want on the website, but it's obviously driven from Darren in the back end. So
we're sort of within reason. We're strictly looking at it. We're doing it in a DSTM way. So we've got the whole governance team, we've got the development team, we've got the business analysis, we've got the business ambassadors. And actually, as I said, I did the DSTM last year, and I thought this is really a good. And actually, for doing prints for years and never really ever doing prints properly, this I find a much more sensible approach.
We have our regular stand-ups. Every day.
So it does lend itself to this kind of...
Well, massively. Cool. Thanks.